everyone, it's Cassie with the Wood County District Public Library Children's Place, here for another fun-sized story time for our Bunnies Book Club. Today, I'm going to be sharing with you this lovely story. Charlotte the Scientist is Squished. And you might be wondering, if you're reading a book about a scientist, will you be doing some science with us today in this video? Well, stick around to the end and maybe you'll find out, but I think there's a pretty good chance. First off though, let's read the book. Charlotte the Scientist is Squished. This is by Camille Andros and illustrated by Brianne Farley. Charlotte was a serious scientist. Protective glasses, a lab coat, and a magnifying glass were her essential scientific equipment, plus a clipboard for important notes. Charlotte solved problems by conducting experiments that followed the scientific method. Now, if you've ever come to STEM with me or watched any of our summer STEM videos during our summer reading program, then you should know all about the scientific method because we talk about it a lot. It's how all scientists put together their experiments to learn more information. And Charlotte had a problem. She was squished. Look how many bunnies are in this picture alongside Charlotte. She is squished, isn't she? She was squished at the table. She was squished in the tub. And sometimes she was even squished on the toilet. No one's giving her any peace. It had become impossible to conduct her experiments. Her test tubes were taken, her beakers got broken, and her specimens were spoiled. Charlotte needed some space. Time to use the scientific method. Step 1. Ask a question. How can I get some space around here? Says Charlotte. Step 2. Form a hypothesis. Hypothesis. If I can get rid of my brothers and sisters, I will have room to be a real scientist. Hypothesis is a big word, but it just means a guess. Step 3. Test the hypothesis. Experiment. She tried an experiment to make everyone disappear, but it didn't work. So she added something to this big beaker of liquid and made all of this smoke, but you can still see the people. All the bunnies are still there. So it didn't work the way she wanted it to. She just made it smoky. She tried another experiment to make herself disappear, but that didn't work either. So here she's doing some research. She's reading a book about chameleons. A chameleon is a reptile that's able to change its outside to blend in with its surroundings. So here she's trying to do the same thing. She's painting herself green to blend in with the bushes, but she gets found. If she was going to get some space, she would have to go there. So here she's built a rocket and she's going to outer space. I wonder if that will work. Oh, looks like she's landed. Here's the Earth. So where do you think she might be in space if the Earth is still so close? She's got her spacesuit on so she can still breathe, and there's room for her ears. Our astronauts never had to think about that, did they? Step 4. Make and record observations. Charlotte was no longer squished at the table. She was no longer squished in the tub, and Charlotte could take as long as she wanted on the toilet. Space was splendid. And here's her clipboard for notes. It says observations, meals, check, baths, check, Toilet, check. Important experiments. Doesn't have a check mark yet, but I think it's going to get one. Finally! And you see Charlotte set up in her giant lab full of room for her. Step 5. Draw conclusions. She had all the room she needed to conduct very important experiments using her protective glasses, a lab coat, and magnifying glass. Her test tubes were tidy, her beakers looked brilliant, and her specimens were sparkling. Her hypothesis was correct. She finally had room to be a scientist. The only problem was there was no one to talk to at mealtime. No one to blow bubbles with in the tub. And what was Charlotte supposed to do when she ran out of toilet paper? "Hello?" she says. Space was lonely. Back to step 2. Form a new hypothesis. If I can have friends in space, then I won't be lonely, and I can be a real scientist. Time for more experiments. Charlotte tried chocolate, but it was too tempting. Looks like she's nibbled on her chocolate bunny. The balloons kept floating away. And robot bunnies were poor conversationalists. They got ruined in the bathtub and tangled in the toilet paper. Charlotte missed her family. She even missed being squished. So she tried one last experiment. What do you think that experiment is going to be? And here we see her rocket ship, and it's back on the green Earth. And she reached a new conclusion. Charlotte didn't need outer space. She just needed her own space. So she's turned her rocket ship into her new laboratory. What a great lesson. Sometimes we don't have to go far away from all the people in our lives. We just need to have our own little space around them. And then here, in the back of this book is a whole long list of how you can conduct your own experiment. And I know a thing or two about conducting experiments because I do a lot of the STEM work here at the library in the Children's Place. And yes, my friends, we are going to do an experiment today. But before we can, we need to act like Charlotte, and I need to make sure that I'm ready to do science. So first things first, I'm going to tie back my hair so that it does not get in the way of our experiment today. I want to make sure that I protect my clothes, and so I'm going to put on my lab coat so that my clothes stay nice and clean and don't get any science stuff on them. So here's my lab coat. I'm going to button it up so that I am all ready to go with my science experiment. And then I'm going to put on my safety goggles. I'm actually going to set up the experiment before I put my safety goggles on, but I will put these on before we conduct the experiment. So, right now, it's starting to get just a little cold outside. Not too much, but you can feel it in the air. And that means that now that it's autumn time, we're looking ahead to winter. And in winter, it snows. Now, there's no snow on the ground yet, but I did find something in my science supplies when I was preparing for this video. I found this bag of instant snow powder. Instant snow powder. Here is how we're going to conduct our experiment. Remember our steps? Step 1, ask a question. How can this powder turn into something that looks like snow? Because right now it doesn't. It looks like sugar or salt, but not snow. Step 2, form a hypothesis. The instructions on this bag tell me to combine this powder with water. So my hypothesis is when I add water to this powder, something will happen to make it look like snow. Step 3, conduct an experiment. So here's what we're going to do. I have my instant snow powder, I have my water, and I have the small container that came with the kit to put the snow in. Now I'm also going to put all of this into a larger bowl just to try and keep my space as clean as I can. So this container is going in here just like that. And now the instructions have told me to put 3 teaspoons, and this is a little teaspoon measurer. 3 teaspoons into my container. 1, 2, and 3. And then I need to add 9 ounces of water, which I have measured out here in my beaker. Now, this is going to be a lot more exciting if you can see from a couple of different angles. So I'm going to keep this camera trained right where it is from the front, but I'm going to bring in a second camera and this special little rig to record from above so you can really watch the experiment happen. So I have my 3 teaspoons of instant snow powder here in my container, which is in my bowl to catch the mess. I have my 9 fluid ounces of water, and I'm going to pour it all in at once, and we are going to see what happens. So I can see something happening. It's gone from a powder to something a little squishy, and if I dump it out, oh my goodness, look at that. It looks like snow, and it feels like snow. It's a little bit wet, it's a little bit squishy. I can't form it into a ball like I could with a snowball, but for being fake, it's pretty convincing. And look how much more of it there is. Remember, we only used 3 small teaspoons of powder, and just by adding some water, it has expanded into something much, much larger. Look at all of this fake snow. I wonder how much snow we've created from our 3 teaspoons of powder. Let's find out. So what I have is a second bowl and a cup measure, and we're going to measure out how much snow we've created, and then we're going to do a little bit of math to figure out how much this has grown when we added water to it. So there's 1 cup of fake snow, and here we have 2 cups of fake snow. Okay. You remember how I had this bowl to keep from making a mess? I don't know that it's worked so well, but that's okay. Sometimes science is messy. This is not quite a full cup. I would call this 3/4 of a cup. So 3 teaspoons of fake snow powder, when we add water to it, has grown into 2 3/4 cups of snow. Now let me do a little bit of math here. So having done some math with the help of my friend the calculator, 2 3/4 cups is equal to 132 teaspoons. And remember, we started with 3 teaspoons. So our 3 teaspoons of powder have grown in size 44 times. 44 times more fake snow than the powder that we started with. That is pretty incredible. Let's talk about what's going on. This instant snow powder is what we call a superabsorbent polymer. So superabsorbent means that it's able to take in water. Think of a sponge like you might have in your kitchen. When you get it wet, it grows bigger, right? Because it's taking in all of that water. Being super absorbent means it does that very, very well. as we can see. That's the superabsorbent part. Now, polymer refers to how a thing is put together. Everything in the world is made up of molecules that link together in lots and lots and lots of different ways. A polymer is something where the molecules form great big long chains all together, and that affects their structure. Being super absorbent means that they can take in a lot of water and grow to much, much, much bigger than they originally started with when you add H2O. So our powder here took on a bunch of water and grew 44 times its original size. This powder is very similar to the sort of powder that you would find if you took a clean new diaper and cut it apart and dumped it out onto a tray. You would see fine little grains of powder coming out of it. That is a super absorbent polymer, and it's what makes diapers work. So let's review the scientific method that we learned from Charlotte the scientist. Number 1, ask a question. What will happen when I combine my powdered instant snow mix with water? Number 2, form a hypothesis. Some reaction will happen that will make my powder look more like snow. Number 3, conduct an experiment according to the instructions, which we did. Number 4, make an observation. Indeed, the powder became much less like salt or sugar and much more like real snow. It got bigger, it was a little bit wet, it was fluffy, just like I might find after it snows outside. And number 5, draw a conclusion. My hypothesis was right. There was a reaction with the powder and the water that created the result like real snow. And it was because my powder is a super absorbent polymer that we combined with water. So, I hope you learned something today from our friend Charlotte and also from this fun instant snow experiment. And until next time, friends, I will see you around, hopefully here at the library, definitely online when you sign up for Bunny's Book Club at wcbpl.readsquared.com. Have a great day.